Hello and welcome to episode 33 of Dunk's Movie Corner or Dunk's Movie Corner podcast, whatever you want to call it. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. If you stumbled upon this, don't stumble away. This is just a quick recap of just what I've seen in the past week, TV, movie, limited series, all that jazz. If you're listening at episode 33, I feel like you've probably heard all this before, but this is again just a companion podcast to the Movie Bros, which is a conversation that I do once a week, or at least once a week, with my brother Hayden, where we pick a movie, watch that movie, and discuss and ramble and banter about it. So this is usually anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes, and those podcast episodes are anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. So if you're looking for something a little bit more meaty, I'd say check that out. Otherwise, let's just kind of get into this. Last week I did not watch as many movies. I think I even talked about that, but this week I'm kind of back to, I would say, normal form. I started the week by continuing the Oceans series, because Hayden and I are going to be discussing Oceans 11, 12, and 13 for our next episode of the Movie Bros. So I watched Oceans 13. This is a solid 3.5 out of 5. You lose the lightning in the bottle of the first one. The second one, they at least did something different, which I'll talk about in a couple minutes. But the third one is still very fun. The music, the lighting, the cast, Al Pacino just being Al Pacino in this for whatever reason. He's just sprinkled in for good luck. I don't know. Yeah, kind of almost a comfort watch. I'm glad they kept this to a trilogy and they didn't keep making them, because I don't know, they did the thing, they made the right amount. All of them are more or less a banger. From there, and that was from 2007. From there, I went to 2025 and watched Captain America: Brave New World. If you want a lot more of an in-depth conversation, Hayden and I did post an episode about this last week, so take a listen to that if you want. It was fine. I would say like 2.5, if I'm being generous, out of 5. Like, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, and it's not the worst Marvel movie I've ever seen, but it's definitely not good, or not in the top bit of those movies, which is kind of unfortunate. Yeah, there's not much more that I can say on here that I haven't already said ad nauseam on the Movie Bros. So I'd say again, listen to that if you want. From there, I felt like I had to watch this just to say that I've seen it, because again, I know it's supposed to be horrendous, but I watched Venom: The Last Dance, and wow, it's not good. It's definitely not good. Rewatching it and looking at the trailers for the first two, like, the first one kind of was the right combination of, like, this is serious and there's some comedy. And the second one, they went full comedy with some, like, a little bit of serious, like, cool badass stuff happening. And it was really still not good. The third one there is, it's just bad. And, like, if you look at Tom Hardy between the first movie and the third, he looks like he has gone through the fucking ringer or something. He looks terrible. I'm glad it's done. Like, I think it has its place. It's of the Sony made Marvel properties. It's more good than not, but it's definitely not good. Like, I believe Craven and Morbius and those kinds of movies are obviously, I mean, Madam Web, horrendous. We talked about it on the Movie Bros. So I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars. This last week, Gene Hackmen died. So I watched a couple of his movies. So I started with the 2001 Royal Tenenbaums. I've seen this many times. Yeah, it's very good. It's very Wes Anderson. But it's not. I find there are some Wes Anderson movies that are a little too much Wes Anderson. This is still a, like, more or less straightforward plot. There's not too much intricate little side things happening. It's cozy. The set is pristine. Like, everything is where it should be, and it feels like it makes sense, especially to someone who, like, has probably a little bit of OCD in them. Makes sense to me. It's a great cast: Ben Stiller, Gwyneth Paltrow, Bill Murray, Owen Wilson, Luke Wilson, Gene Hackman, obviously, Angelica Houston, um, Danny Glover. It's just a very fun watch. I love the tracksuits in it. There's a lot of great stills in it. If you haven't seen it, it is on Prime. If you have Prime, it's there for free. That's probably like a 4.5 out of 5. Maybe not like a perfect movie, but it's very much enjoyable for me. From there, I rewatched Oceans 12, so now I have completed, maybe not in order, but I completed the Oceans 11, 12, and 13. This is from 2004. Same thing, I think this is a 3.5 out of 5. Very fun, very enjoyable. What is her name? The main... Catherine Zeta-Jones in that is insanely attractive, like, almost distractingly so throughout the movie, and it's funny because the first movie is kinda about I mean, yes, it's about the heist, but it includes a lot of George Clooney and Julia Roberts' relationship, and the second movie is more about Brad Pitt and Catherine Zeta-Jones, and they just make George Clooney and Julia Roberts look like bumfuck normal people because they're just they're almost too attractive for their own good. I don't know. I like that they tried to do something different, at least with the second one. It's just not another. It's a heist movie, but it's not just another casino, which that's kind of what I referenced for number three. I will say again, you can't beat the original. The first one is just so good and so not unique, but to a certain degree unique. And now you're with the same characters, so you can kind of expand a little bit of it. Because again, we're going to talk about this coming week on our episode with Hayden and I. But uh, yeah, I don't want to say too much more. But Steven Soderbergh, the director, I think did really well with these, and it's interesting because after he's done this, he's done a lot of different genres. If you look at his, I mean, again, I don't want to say too much here, but he's done a lot of different things from Magic Mike to Solaris to Contagion. He did a horror movie this year called Presence. He's got a new one coming out in a couple weeks called Black Bag, which is like a spy thriller. He's kind of done all over the place, which is interesting. From there, I watched another Gene Hackman from 1986. This is Hoosiers. It's I would say, very well known. Uh, a very solid 3 to 3.5 out of 5. It's very like in the first 10 minutes, you know exactly beat for beat almost what's going to happen throughout the movie. Is it still good? Is it still enjoyable? Absolutely. Gene Hackman is a like basketball coach in the tiny little town where all they care about is basketball and him whipping the team into shape and them going on to win all the games, etc. All the things that you kind of expect from a sports feel good motivational movie. Um, so yeah, like nothing inherently wrong, but maybe not my favorite of his. From there, I don't know. This was suggested to me on Netflix. I watched the 2002 The Sum of All Fears. This is not Matt Damon, excuse me, Ben Affleck, Morgan Freeman, James Cromwell, Liev Schreiber, Bridget Monahan. Those are like the main big names that you might also recognize. Kieran Hines, I can never say his, Philip Baker Hall. The director did Band of Brothers, Field of Dreams. Is it? So this is my first venture into uh, Jack Ryan, which is, I mean, it's a series of books that have gone on to be made into both several different movies with several different actors playing the role, and they've done I think 2 or 3 season at least series, I believe, on Amazon. I don't think I've seen it, but with John Krasinski. But this is obviously much older. It's much. You'd think it's an action movie, but it's not really an action. I mean, there's action in it, but it's much more politics and like subterfuge of like manipulating nations from to do. It's hard to explain. I don't know how to really talk about it, but I like Matt Damon. Or not, God, I keep saying Matt Damon. It's not Matt Damon. I like Ben Affleck in this, and and I saw a bit of him in Armageddon the other day, and I was like, man, he was like the young, handsome leading man. And I don't know if it was just his personal life decisions or just also acting decisions, but he kind of fell by the wayside. I kind of feel bad for him, to be perfectly honest. I feel like he did not do well with fame, whereas other people thrive in it. Some people prefer to not be, in the spotlight all the time. Morgan Freeman being Morgan Freeman as always. James Cromwell, if you saw him, he always kind of plays either like the president or some military person or someone like that. I mean, that's what he's good at. This does make me want to watch Rebel Ridge, which he's also in, and that came out this year or last year, excuse me, and he's supposed to be very good in. I'll probably check that out at some point. I gave it like a 3, maybe 3.5 out of 5. I would definitely check out more Jack Ryan stories because I think the character is interesting. He's just a CIA analyst that occasionally they're like, oh, he's now stumbled into something that is well beyond his capabilities, but he still has to like deal with it. Seems like much more like quote unquote average Joe being put into these situations. And then I ended my week, however you want to word that. So I had a really bad case of food poisoning yesterday, so I was pretty out of it, you know. things coming out of both ends. Lost a lot of water weight. You literally lost like over 3 pounds of or just I don't know if it was all water weight because there's some solids in there, but either way, that's besides the point. As I was resting up, my dad put on because I was hanging out with them all day because I was like, oh, I can't take care of my dog or do the things that they're gonna have to help out. But he put on Red Planet. This is from the year 2000. This is Val Kilmer, Carrie Ann Moss, Tom Sizemore, Simon Baker, Terrence Stamp, and Benjamin Bratt. This felt like parts of it felt like The Martian before The Martian. Some of it felt like Interstellar before Interstellar. It also felt like Alien, but it came out after Alien. It was fun. I don't think I wouldn't inherently call it good, but if you just want a nice, fairly straightforward space-ish movie, because it's really about 4 or 5 dudes that land on Mars. They're trying to make sure it's actually livable on there. It's. I mean, read the synopsis if you really want to. But then they are kind of stranded. They're running out of oxygen. They're running out of all those things. And then what's her name? Carrie Ann Moss, who you may know from The Matrix as Trinity. She's up on like the orbiting spaceship trying to like help them from there. It's fun. What's his name? Val Kilmer. At the time, Val Kilmer does have this aura about him, just kind of this like cheeky, roguish aura. I feel like what's his name? Heath Ledger kind of had similar vibes when he was alive, and it's too bad that Val Kilmer happens to the best of us has gotten old and health problems and things like that. It was nice to see him in Top Gun Maverick, even for a little bit the other year. I think that was a year or two ago at this point, which is crazy. It was fun. Yeah, I would give this. I mean, it's a very solid 3 out of 5. So again, it's not a bad movie. It's not a good movie. It's just kind of in the middle. More good than not. There's obviously, if you're looking for a space movie, there are better ones out there, but it's still pretty enjoyable. And you have to do it. Keep in mind, this is from the year 2000, and it definitely feels like it's from the year 2000. That was rapid fire. That was 2, 4, 6. That was 8 movies, and of course, sprinkling throughout there, I'm still slowly trudging through Batman the Animated Series. I think that's all I've seen. I think this coming week or the week after, I've got Mickey 17 in theaters at some point. Yeah, we'll see what else I get up to watching. Otherwise, if there's any of those movies that I quickly rambled about that you agree or disagree, or if I liked them, if you think I should be watching something else, or any opinion that you might have, you can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Podcasts, and I believe it is now on YouTube. So if you search for those things or on any of those platforms, you should be able to find this, I believe, if I've been doing the technical side of this correctly. And again, like I said at the top, this is just kind of a companion podcast of the several times that I mentioned the Movie Bros. That's the main one that actually I think is a much better conversation about the movies and just in general. Check that out. That is weekly, so these are posted usually on Tuesdays. The Movie Bros usually come out on Sundays. Yeah, thanks for listening to a quick little rant and ramble by yours truly, and I'll catch everyone for episode 34 next week.